Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro. And then Yahweh appeared to him in the midst of a burning thorn bush. We know the story very well. First we see there an angel of the Lord appeared to Moses in fire flaming out of a bush. Then we don't see this angel anymore. Then one who strikes a conversation with Moses later on was God himself, not the angel. So that means the angel in reference here is God himself. And God appears to him, as we read in the book, on the mountain of the Lord, on Mount Horeb. And this Mount Horeb, especially in connection with Moses, is popularly known by a different name, Sinai. They are both the same, but two different names. Sinai comes from the Hebrew word sene, which means thorn bush. So God appeared to him in the thorn bush, and from there comes the name Sinai. So we all ask this question when we come to think about this or reflect about this story. Why thorn bush? There are two rabbinic interpretations to that. The first one, most of us are aware of, is to prove that there is not a single place in the world where God is altogether absent. God is present everywhere. And he can make use of any place or anything to communicate his message. And the second interpretation given by the Jewish rabbis is, okay, I'll come to that. Before I go into that, need to say something more about the Israelites. We know the situation, the context. The Israelites are in slavery in Egypt. So being a slave in a foreign country is not something easy. So there is hard labor and less reward. And then Israelites in that situation, they didn't even think about going out. They did not even think about freedom. They were happy where they were. And there, God takes the initiative to free them. Okay, keep that in mind. Now I will explain why God appeared in the thorn bush. So just try to visualize the whole context of this thorn bush. It is in the desert, everything is dry, and we have this thicket of thorn bush, pricky and hurting, and there is also fire. So God speaks from within these three excruciating situations: desert, fire, and thorn bush. And what does God tell Moses? I have witnessed the affliction of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cry. I know what they are suffering. That means God is in their suffering. The Israelites were going through the hard time, not alone. God is with them inside. God suffers with them. So he knows very well what the Israelites were going through. So God comes up to save them from bondage. So this is a good message for all of us. We might have the problems we go through, could be pain, could be misunderstanding, could be false accusation, could be the situation of being left alone, loneliness, could be betrayal, whatever, in what we are going through, God is in there. We are never alone. We can understand that so very well if we can remember that story of footprints on the sea. I'm not going to say that, we all know it. So God is there in it. And this thorn bush and God's presence inside the thorn bush is what we are celebrating during this Lent. God saw what we were going through, what we were in need of, and even before we asked God, God became man and suffered and even died for us. And this thorn bush we can see, visualize very well up there on the cross, that crown of thorns. So never ever think God doesn't care. He cares. And He knows what we need. Again, one more thing. In the thorn bush, in the burning thorn bush, we see the bush is not burnt down. The bush remained thorn bush. The thorns stayed there. So God is in there does not mean the sufferings are going to go away. We might say, if God is there, God sees why He allows it. Only He knows. And God is in no way bound to give us an answer for that. He has His plans, which will be evolved gradually. So all that we have to do is never put the blame on God. It is part of God's plan, and His plans are always for our best. Later on, God would reveal His name. I am who I am. I am not going into explain that anymore in detail. But if we study that Hebrew expression, I am who I am, so that would mean something like this. I am going to paraphrase it. I am not known by name. I am known by what I do. And what do I do? Mercy. I am mercy. That's why right after we heard the first reading, in the responsorial psalm, we had that verse. The Lord is kind and merciful. It wasn't something coincidental. It meant that I am mercy. God is mercy. So when we go through bad times, God is there with us. And He interferes at the right time, at the right moment. And all that we need to have is hope in God's providence. In this Jubilee year, we are pilgrims of hope. And Pope Francis says, hope does not disappoint us. Okay, he was copying it from St. Paul. So let us try to have that hope in God's presence. When we go through bad times, God is there. And let us try to convince ourselves that God knows better and his plans are always the better.